"We've decided you're not family anymore," my mom said to my daughter, after she flew 5 hours to attend their wedding anniversary. They didn't even let her inside. I didn't yell, I did this. 30 minutes later they were screaming in panic. Let's back up. Not far. Just to the part where I was standing under a decorative arch made of fake hydrangeas, scanning the driveway for the 6th time in 10 minutes, trying to pretend I was relaxed. My husband was holding 2 half-empty paper cups of lukewarm punch and whisper arguing with our youngest about whether she could take off her shoes. My son was doing that preteen lean against a folding chair, pretending he wasn't with us. Me. I was checking the time again. "She's cutting it close," I muttered. "Plane could have been delayed," Graham offered, sipping the least festive drink on earth. I nodded, but my stomach was already doing that thing where it felt like it was getting lighter and heavier at the same time. Evelyn had been so excited. She'd picked out her dress 3 weeks ago. Had it dry cleaned, which for a college student is a full act of love. She even had a tiny gift bag tucked in her carry-on. Some kind of photo frame she custom-etched herself. She was supposed to land just before noon. Ceremony was at 2. She swore she'd Uber straight from the airport. "I'll be there, Mom," she'd said. "It's their big day." Yeah, their big day. By 2:11 I was sweating through my sleeveless dress and checking my phone every 20 seconds. No texts. No missed calls. No Evelyn. I found my mom near the back patio, rearranging candles like she was directing a film instead of hosting a vow renewal. Her hair was pinned up in that way that always reminded me of old soap operas. My dad was beside her, holding a clipboard like someone might try to steal the vows and rewrite them. "Hey," I said, forcing a smile. "I know it's late, but can we hold off a few more minutes? Evelyn's not here yet. She must be right around the corner." My mom turned toward me, calm as a librarian. "Oh, she was here." I blinked. "What?" "She came early," she said, wiping a non-existent speck off the tablecloth. "A bit before noon, I think." I laughed. "Because what else do you do when the world starts tilting?" "Then where is she? Is she in the house?" My dad chimed in as if he'd been waiting for his cue. "We told her it wasn't appropriate for her to be here today." The words didn't compute. "I'm sorry, what?" "She's not really part of the family," my mom said, smoothing the cloth like that made it better. "Not in the same way. Not in the same way." I stared at her, waiting for the smirk. The wink. The inevitable, "Relax, I'm kidding." That part never came. What the hell are you talking about?" My voice came out thin, cracked at the edges. "She understood," my dad said, folding his arms like that sealed the matter. "She didn't make a scene. She was very polite." Polite. Because of course she was. Evelyn had always been too polite for her own good. Too composed. Too determined not to make anyone uncomfortable even while being gutted. I couldn't even feel my legs anymore. "You turned her away," I said slowly. "She flew 5 hours. She paid for the ticket herself. She skipped her roommate's birthday for this. And you?" "We didn't mean anything by it," my mom said. "We just wanted to keep it simple. Intimate." There were 87 people on the RSVP list. But sure, intimate. Graham came up behind me, sensing something was off. I turned to him, then to my kids, then back to my parents. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. But something snapped inside me like the thinnest wire finally giving up. "We're leaving," I said. "What?" My mom's eyes widened. "Moira, don't be dramatic." I didn't answer. I just bent down and told the kids to grab their things. Graham caught on immediately. He dumped the punch, took the bags, and nodded. We walked out in silence. I didn't look back. Outside, the air felt like a punishment, hot, sticky, unforgiving. My hands shook as I tried Evelyn again. Straight to voicemail. I tried texting. Nothing. Then I just stood by the car, gripping the phone like it might give me a reason. Graham opened the passenger door for the kids, then came to stand beside me. "She'll call," he said. He didn't need to. Because 5 minutes later I got a message. Just a simple, "Are you free now?" I called her back immediately. She answered after 2 rings. "Hey," I said. My voice caught in my throat. "Where are you?" "I'm fine," she said. But her voice wasn't. It was small. Frayed. I didn't want to ruin anything. "You didn't ruin anything," I said. "They did. They said, they've decided I'm not family anymore." The silence between us wasn't empty. It was loaded. I didn't want to tell you, she added. Not during the event. I figured you deserved to enjoy it. I swallowed. My hand curled tighter around the phone. Where are you? Some cafe down the road. I didn't really know where else to go. We're coming to you. Graham had already started the car. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. But I took out my phone. Opened a folder. Made a call. And 30 minutes later my parents were screaming in panic. I used to think they were just flawed. You know, like all parents. Not perfect. A little blunt. Old school. The kind of people who'd forget a birthday then hand you $20 and say, well, now you can get yourself something you actually want. But they weren't cruel. At least I didn't think so. Until I heard my daughter repeat the words that had been said to me once, half a lifetime ago. They said I'm not really family. And just like that, everything snapped into place. Growing up, I was the middle child. You know the role. Old enough to be blamed, not old enough to be respected. Too young for responsibility but too old to be cute. My older brother Colin was the achiever. My younger sister Ruth was the baby. I was the filler child. The spacing mechanism. The one who filled the gap in family photos without adding much to the composition. It wasn't obvious at first. Just little things. At birthdays, Ruth would get handmade cards with glitter. Colin would get a custom cake with his favorite football team's logo. I once got a single-layer sheet cake from the grocery store with the wrong name on it. And when I pointed it out, "Oh Moira, it's just cake. Stop being difficult." That was a phrase I'd come to know well. But it wasn't just cake. It was never just anything. I was maybe 12 or 13 when it happened. The first time they said it. It made a new friend. Maya. She was loud, wore black nail polish and talked about becoming a tattoo artist. My parents hated her. Hated her parents even more. We don't know what kind of family that is, my mom had muttered, like they were harboring weapons instead of raising a teenage girl who liked eyeliner. I kept hanging out with her anyway. So one Saturday I woke up to find the house empty. I thought they'd gone out for groceries. Spoiler, they had not. They'd gone to the amusement park. One we'd planned to visit for weeks. I wasn't invited. When I asked why, later through tears after Ruth accidentally let it slip, my mom laughed and said, "We just felt like you weren't really part of the family that day." And everyone laughed. Even Ruth. Even Colin. Because it was just a joke. A few hours later, when I sat at the dinner table with swollen eyes and a plate of leftover hot dogs, I asked if she meant it. "Oh Moira, of course not," she said. "But honestly, if you're going to act like this over a silly joke, maybe it's time you reevaluate your behavior." She told me I'd embarrassed myself. That I should think about how I made them feel. So I apologized. And for years I thought I'd overreacted. I thought I deserved it. Fast forward. I met my first husband when I was 22. His name was Aaron. He grew up in the foster system, bounced around a lot, but he was steady. The kind of man who fixed your broken chair before you even asked and knew how to cook actual food that didn't come out of a box. My parents hated him. "Where's his family?" my dad had asked over dinner the first time we brought Aaron home. "He doesn't have any," I said. My mom tilted her head like a curious bird. "That's so sad." Sad to them meant suspicious. They never said it outright, but it was clear they didn't think he belonged. He wasn't our kind. He was soft-spoken, worked with his hands, and didn't have a degree from a shiny school. What he did have was heart. Which apparently wasn't enough. When we got married, my mom said, "Just promise me one thing. You won't expect us to pretend this is a good idea." I said nothing. Mostly because I had no idea how to answer that without flipping a table. They did come to the wedding. But they brought energy like they were attending a funeral. When Evelyn was born, everything softened. For me anyway. For them, not so much. He looked like Aaron. Big brown eyes, expressive eyebrows, quiet curiosity. She didn't cry much as a baby, didn't demand anything. Just watched. Thoughtful from day one. My parents kept her at arm's length. They didn't say it. They didn't have to. One Christmas they brought all the grandkids personalized ornaments. Evelyn's was generic store-bought with JOY in block letters. Not her name. Just JOY. My mom actually said, well, we weren't sure what she was into. She was 4. What she was into was stickers and grilled cheese. But okay. I tried talking to them about it once. My mom told me not to read into everything. My dad said I was always trying to find fault. Eventually I stopped asking. Years later, Aaron and I divorced. It wasn't dramatic. We just changed. He moved to a different city, still visits Evelyn regularly. We co-parent well. Better than some couples I know who are still married. My parents? You'd think they'd won a war. Well, my mom had said, sipping her tea, I suppose we all make mistakes. But you've really grown from it. Then I met Graham. My now husband. Steady, funny, middle class from the right kind of town. Went to college. Wears polos unironically. My parents loved him on sight. We're so proud of you, my dad had said at dinner one night. You really turned your life around. I almost spit out my drink. Turn my life around? Like Evelyn was part of a detour I wasn't supposed to take? It became clearer with time. Evelyn's half-siblings got real attention. Real gifts. Real warmth. She got polite smiles and last-minute invites. Sometimes I caught her noticing. But she never said anything. She just folded her feelings neatly and put them on a shelf somewhere. Ruth, my sister, started to change once she had kids of her own. She started noticing things. The way our parents always leaned on me, always dismissed me. She apologized. Quietly. She started calling me more. Inviting me to things. Offering babysitting help without waiting for me to ask. It wasn't fair, she said once. The way they treated you growing up. I see it now. We didn't talk about it constantly, but I knew she saw it. That meant something. Colin, on the other hand, still the golden boy. He worked in finance, married someone who referred to herself as classy in her wedding vows, and sided with our parents on everything. They're old, he said once. Just let them be who they are. Sure. And maybe next time I'll let a raccoon live in my car because it's cold out. When my parents announced they were renewing their vows for their anniversary, all 3 siblings were asked to contribute. Equally. I paid my share. Sent in photos for the slideshow. Helped with the playlist. Evelyn was included in the group email. She was excited. I let myself believe it might be different this time. They were older now. Maybe softer. Maybe ready to see the difference between parenting and punishment. Maybe they'd treat all the grandkids the same. Maybe. And then they turned her away. When I called Ruth from the car, she sounded winded. Wait, she was there? They told me she couldn't make it. They lied, I said. Ruth was quiet for a second. Then, Moira, that's disgusting. They told her she wasn't family. She said it to me word for word. Ruth exhaled slowly. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to, I said. I just needed you to know. She didn't respond right away. When she did, her voice was low. Let me talk to James. We'll figure something out. I hung up and stared out the windshield. Because that's when it hit me. This wasn't a new betrayal. It was a rerun. And this time I wasn't the one apologizing. I didn't speak the entire car ride. Neither did Graham. The kids sat quietly in the back seat watching something on a tablet with the volume too low to hear. It was eerie, this silence. Like the calm after a building collapses. You're not sure what just happened, but you know nothing looks the same. I had walked out of my parents' wedding anniversary. Correction, we had. As a family. In front of 80 people, give or take a few old co-workers and ex-neighbors. We stood up, collected our things and left without looking back. I kept asking myself the same question. What have I done? And the answer kept changing. At first, you abandoned your parents' big day. Then, no, you made a point. Then again, what kind of daughter does that? And finally, one who has a daughter of her own. When we got to the cafe, Evelyn was sitting by the window, hands wrapped around a mug of something that had probably gone cold. She looked up, blinked and stood slowly, like she wasn't sure we were real. Her eyes were red but dry. Hi, she said. Like she hadn't just been shut out of her grandparents' lives. I hugged her before I could stop myself. Not the polite kind either. I crushed her and she didn't pull away. We ordered fries. A few drinks. Nobody ate. I don't know how long we sat like that before my phone buzzed. I didn't even check the screen. I just knew. Who is it? Graham asked gently. My brother, I said. Here we go. I picked up. What the hell, Moira? Hi, Colin. You just left? At Mom and Dad's anniversary? Are you completely out of your mind? Evelyn was turned away at the door. She's being dramatic. You know how she is. No, Colin. I know how they are. He scoffed so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. This is insane. You are blowing up decades of family tradition over some misunderstanding. She flew 5 hours. They told her she wasn't family. Colin kept going. Do you have any idea what you've done to Mom? To Dad? They're devastated. They were in tears. Good. That stunned him into silence. Then, you've lost your mind. You're trying to ruin this family. Colin, I said calmly. If one person ruins your big day, it wasn't a big day. It was a performance. I hung up mid-rant. My hand was shaking. Evelyn reached over and placed her fingers gently on mine. Just a light tap. I looked at her. She didn't say anything. Buzz. This time it was Mom. Graham reached for the phone. Don't, he said softly. I have to. I answered. I don't know what you think you're doing, Mom hissed. But you are humiliating us in front of everyone we know. Maybe you should have thought of that before slamming the door in your granddaughter's face. We didn't slam the door. Don't be so dramatic. Right, I said. You just told her she wasn't family and watched her walk away. There was a pause. Then the guilt trip began. You've made your point. Now come back. No. Maura, don't do this. It's your parents' anniversary. People are asking questions. I'm sure they are. Her voice sharpened. You're humiliating us. You already said that. Ruth is leaving too. What did you say to her? I hung up. 2 minutes later, a text popped up. From Ruth. We're leaving too. I held the screen up for Graham. He raised his eyebrows. Evelyn leaned in. I wasn't the only one, I said. We weren't the only ones. And that's when it really hit me, not just what we had done but what it meant. We didn't stay quiet. We didn't swallow it. We left. We got up in public and made it known that this wasn't okay. Not anymore. 10 minutes later, Ruth and her husband showed up at the cafe with their kids. They looked like us, stunned, tired, slightly unmoored. We pushed 2 tables together. No one said much. The waitress looked at us like we'd just been kicked out of a funeral. Which, in a way, we had. I watched Evelyn hand her little cousin a napkin to wipe ketchup from his chin. Present. The kind of big sister I never got to be. She's handling this better than I ever did, I muttered. Ruth raised an eyebrow. Better than I did too. My phone buzzed again. This time a message from my cousin Marla, who was still at the venue. It's a mess. Then, Colin tried to run the slideshow. Froze the screen. People are leaving. Your mom just said, it was all a misunderstanding into the mic during appetizers. I handed the phone to Ruth. She read it. Snorted into her tea. We sat back, still and quiet as the rest of the world swirled in the fallout of our rebellion. I keep waiting for someone to fix it, Ruth said quietly. I looked at her. We're the ones who always fix it. She nodded. And we didn't this time. I leaned back and stared out the window. A breeze ruffled the edge of the cafe awning. A couple walked past holding hands, laughing at something private and irrelevant. We didn't ruin their big day, I said almost to myself. They did. I got another update later that night. They still went through with the vow renewal. Some people stayed, mostly the ones who were too polite to leave or too invested in the open bar. The front rows were half empty. When they kissed, there was clapping. Not joyful clapping. Not emotional clapping. The kind of clapping you hear when someone finishes a slideshow about their vacation to Utah. Awkward. Obligatory. And very, very quiet. It had been 3 days. Not long. But long enough for the silence to turn loud. Long enough for the invoices to start hitting inboxes. Long enough for everyone to pretend it hadn't happened, until the money came due. I hadn't said anything. Not to my parents. Not to Colin. Not even to Ruth, who texted me just once to ask, "We're really not paying?" I replied, "Correct." The vow renewal hadn't been prepaid, just parts of it. My parents had insisted on doing it right this time. Which apparently meant a champagne wall, a roaming violinist, and a wedding planner who used the phrase statement florals without irony. We were each meant to cover a third. Me, Ruth, and Colin. Now the math had shifted, and Colin was about to notice. The voicemail came at 7:42 a.m. I hadn't even had coffee yet. "Moira, what the hell is this? You seriously think you're going to just skip out on the bill? We made a family agreement. You don't get to throw a tantrum and walk out of Mom and Dad's big day and then stick me with the damn invoices." He paused. Then added, "Grow up." I played it twice just to let it sink in. Then I muted my phone and flipped a pancake. Evelyn wanted pancakes this morning. She was still staying with us. Her flight back was tomorrow. I asked my professor for an extension, she told me earlier. Told him I needed to be with family. He said, sounds important. It was. By mid-afternoon, the panic showed up in person. My parents knocked on my door like they were selling Tupperware. My mom had something in her hand, maybe a folder, maybe a peace offering. My dad looked tense but dressed for dignity. He always wore a blazer when he wanted to seem reasonable. Graham offered to get the door. I waved him off. Nope. Mine to handle. I opened it. We thought we'd stop by for a quick chat, my mom said sweetly. Just to clear the air. My dad nodded. Especially with Evelyn. We think she may have misunderstood. Oh, I bet she did. They asked if they could speak to her alone. I called her down from upstairs. She appeared calm, arms crossed, expression unreadable. She looked at me. Only if you want, I said. She nodded once. Sure. I stepped into the kitchen but stayed close. Not eavesdropping, just protective. They started soft. They always did. We didn't mean to hurt you. It was just a very hectic day. We love you, of course we do. Evelyn, you said I wasn't family. My mom gasped. That's not what we said. Evelyn, you said, we've decided you're not family anymore. I remember it exactly. My dad, what we meant was it was close family only. Evelyn, I flew 5 hours. I bought a dress. And you didn't even let me in the building. My mom, sweetheart, that's not fair. Evelyn, neither is what you did. There was a pause. A long one. Then she said it. I'm not mad. I'm just done. That was it. Somehow I felt proud when I heard her say that. 5 minutes later, the door closed behind them. That night, Evelyn sat beside me on the couch and said, I don't want to keep trying for people who don't try back. I didn't speak right away. I was too stunned by how strong she was. I used to fall for it too, I told her. You didn't. She leaned her head on my shoulder. By the next morning, the smear campaign had started. Aunt Liz called Ruth. Your mom says you blew up the anniversary over a misunderstanding. Uncle Greg messaged me, just checking in. You good? Which for him was a full-blown emotional declaration. Colin told anyone who'd listened that he was now stuck paying for the whole event because his sisters were unhinged. And then Ruth texted. They changed the will. Colin's now sole heir. I replied. Let him enjoy it. I'm not buying my way into people who never wanted me. And I meant it. No dramatic goodbye. No last confrontation. Just distance. Silence. Boundaries that don't move anymore. Let them spin their version. We know what happened. And we're not going back. It's been a few years. We're still no contact. With my parents. With Colin. That never changed. Evelyn graduated last spring. She moved back to the city, has a job she loves, friends who feel more like family, and a tiny studio apartment that somehow still manages to be nicer than mine was at her age. She never mentions her grandparents. And honestly, I don't think she even thinks about them anymore. A few months ago, Colin turned up at our door. Unannounced. Graham opened it. I stayed seated. Colin looked tired. Not just physically. He asked if we planned to start supporting mom and dad again. Apparently, the retirement villa, the travel club, the imported furniture. None of it came cheap. And since we cut them off, he'd been footing the bill alone. Willingly, of course. Because they'd promised him everything. The house. The accounts. The legacy. Only there was nothing to inherit. Turns out they'd been living beyond their means for decades. The net worth? Negative. The house. Mortgaged to the hilt. The inheritance? A myth with velvet curtains and a wine fridge. They'd lied to him too. He stormed off after a fight I didn't witness and don't plan to ask about. Last I heard he cut them off as well. Ironic really. They pushed Evelyn out for being not family, and ended up with no family left at all. But me, I'm okay. I chose my daughter. I chose my dignity. And I'd choose them again. But tell me, did I go too far? Or just far enough? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell.